We wanted to know what role local governments play in closing the political divide or widening it. 9 Inch Side's Rahalia Amades talked to an expert to find out.
Keith Allred saw everything happen at the Capitol in Washington, much like the rest of us.
I wish I could say in this context of, oh, it's not as big a deal as it looks. It is fully as bad as it looks. So.
A pretty pessimistic tone for the executive director of the Institute for Civil Discourse, but don't count out his optimism.
We can hope that this might be a galvanizing event, a little bit like the Tucson shooting was 10 years ago, that wakes us all up and says, hey, we had better step up and do something about it.
Allred says while political divides exist in Arizona like most anywhere else in America,
the 10% most extreme on either side talk louder and longer than everybody else.
Moderate voters, like those he says you'll find in the suburbs of Phoenix and Tucson, don't buy a message just because it's loud or long-winded.
If either side gets too extreme, they're going to lose them. And so I think that Arizona is typical that way.
While most other places in the country voted for President-elect Joe Biden, congressional races trended to Republicans. Not the case in Arizona.
Senator Kelly was a little bit of an exception to that, and so Arizona was a little bit different.
It's the divide in politics, he said, fueled events like we saw in Washington. A divide, he says, didn't exist as much as it does today in local politics.
County, to some extent, certainly city elections, school board elections, etc., they were nonpartisan, and we didn't think of those in partisan terms.
But he says there's hope. Allred, who is also a Harvard professor of negotiation and conflict resolution at the Kennedy School of Government, says local politics can actually inspire us to come together. He says political leaders are more accessible, and keeping our communities thriving reminds us to stay practical.
As the saying goes, there's not a Republican or a Democratic way to fix a pothole.
Rahalia Amades, KGUN 9, on your side.